You're listening to Two Babies in a Business, a podcast about business, marketing, growth strategy, staff, clients, babies, marriage. I'm Christina. This is Peter. We're founders and leaders of CIPR Communications. We are still talking websites, episode 7. And today we are giving our list of the top 5 things you need to look for in a website developer.
Right. So should I go first? I guess we're going to do 5. We're each going to list our top 5 things that we think are most important. And then it'd be great if you commented and told us what you think was most important. But is that how we should start?
And we've not shared these with each other. So, I mean, hopefully there's some alignment, but if there isn't, that's okay too, I guess.
There might be zero alignment. So I'll start. So I'll just say that I think the top 5 things you need in a website developer are a developer that has a strong process and is process focused, one that is flexible, has some flexibility in terms of the way they do things, and not super rigid and not super I know everything and I'm right all the time. Obviously strong project management skills. There's a lot of project management involved in a website development project. I think it goes without saying, but technical ability to actually technically build a website, obviously pretty important. And finally, my 5th is problem solving. You run into a lot of problems when it comes to website development, potentially projects, all kinds of problems related to people not delivering in terms, whatever. There's lots of things that can come up in a project like this. So that'd be my kind of top 5 list. And I would just say that I think that all of these types of things can be relatively uncovered in the sales process. So I think, and I called it a sales process. So there you go. There's number 1. So obviously in the sales process, is there a process? Are they asking questions? Are they asking the right questions? Are they digging deep? Are they right? It starts there, right? So I think you can get a sense for the company you're going to work with by the way the sales process starts and the types of questions and then obviously how it moves into the post-sale stage and all those types of things. So that's my list. What's yours, Christina?
What is mine? Mine's a little bit different, but I think lots of similarities. I mean, my first I put was relationship and personality fit. I think that a website project, as we've said, is a big project. There's a lot of trust involved. There's a lot of back and forth. There's a lot of, storming, forming, norming, right? Like you really get to know one another intimately in a website process. There's a lot of tentacles. You're talking to IT people, you're talking to your subject matter experts. So, having a good relationship with the person that's building or the agency that's building, I think is a really top thing. If you're at a point where, it's yucky having a conversation with them, then obviously that project's not going to go well. My second was expertise. So I think you hit this in a couple of your points, but obviously expertise in websites and development and building and expertise in your needs. I think that, there's kind of this probably cherry on the cake. If you can find someone who's built websites within your industry, then they obviously hopefully know a thing or two, but I don't know. Really I don't know. They have to.
I think there often can be a bit of I think what you kind of sometimes end up with is sort of cookie cutter, sort of not too much thinking personally. I don't know. I think it depends, but.
Yeah, I feel like watch for that. Don't want that, obviously. I think, I think about a few of the websites we've built across industries, but there's been a few in the tourism space, particularly where I think we've added some value because of our expertise in tourism. Things that potentially that marketing manager wouldn't have thought of that we had, but I agree with you. You got to steer clear. I think there's these people that market themselves as, we're the expert website builders for realtors, and you look at 4 different realtors and they have the exact same photo. My third was a great content team. So, whether that team is one person or not, or whoever it is, I think that, given our last podcast on content, you want to be able to have someone, and we're actually dealing with a website build right now, or we didn't build the site, and we've come along to help them on the content side of things and content migration, building out content. And it's all good. We love doing that, and we are great at content here at CIPR. But that's tough, right? Now we're trying to fit content into this website that's already been built, and it's for sure a beautiful site. I think the designer, again, I'm not going to call them a developer, I'm going to call them a designer, should be proud of their work. But if you're not working with a website developer that knows anything about content, our philosophy is that content dictates the site, so it's important. I had project management is my fourth one. You need a strong project manager on both sides of the table, right? So you should be seeing from your website developer a really thorough process and how they're going to manage that and understand. You should look for them, like they should be seeking to understand what your approval process is and how they can help you manage a process. And they should be helping you manage the process internally as well. Like obviously you need a project manager on your side as the client, but your agency should be helping you with that process for sure. And then my last one I am calling will they love you and leave you? So kind of goes back to the relationship one, but do they have a process, or do they have a system in which you become part of their family? We always talk about our clients as a part of the CIPR family, and if we build you a website, obviously we want you to continue on. Maybe it's website maintenance, maybe it's just we talk once a year because we are hosting through us, or maybe the next step is your digital marketing and communications program. But the loving and leaving from a website perspective, I think is one that people should be wary of, because if your website developer is going to love and leave you, are you going to be able to fix that site? Do you know where everything is? Do you know what the passwords are? Do you are your hands going to be tied? Are you just being left with this PDF document, and there's no intention of following up and empowering you and ensuring you're there for success? So I mean, to me, that becomes really important too. I always say to my team, I never want what we do to be handcuffs or to sit on a shelf and collect dust. And
Right.
a website can do that, right? Like if you feel like you can't edit it or you can't do anything, like I think about our friend and past client Ross from Absolute Audio. He felt like that with his old website. He couldn't change anything. He couldn't do anything. He couldn't, and that's because his developer loved him and left him. And when it came to doing SEO or public relations for him, he didn't even know where to start because he couldn't even get into the back end of his website.
Yeah, I'm actually gonna maybe add one, or
Oh
maybe
boy,
replace one, or whatever. Whoever's going to be writing our content to support this podcast. I'm sorry, but there's actually just kind of prompted something that I think is actually a really critical question in terms of like when you're building your website. Is the agency building it for you a design agency? Are they a marketing agency? Are they a digital marketing agency? Like what's actually their core strength? Like, or are they just a website design development agency? Because that's actually going to dictate a lot of things in terms of one, the long-term relationship. So obviously if it's just an agency that builds websites, then you might have a long-term relationship in terms of website management after that, but it won't be very much after that. And then you'll probably have to go find another agency to do your digital marketing. If it's a design agency, they might build you a really pretty website that is, I'm sorry to say, and I don't mean to offend anybody from design agencies, completely useless when it comes to SEO or digital marketing. And maybe not, I'm not saying like some design agencies understand SEO and understand how to build websites for conversion, all that kind of stuff. But, we've seen plenty that are beautiful websites completely sort of don't follow any of the rules of things you need to digital market properly, right? So I mean, obviously CIPR Communications is a website company, digital marketing company, and a PR, the content company, really, for lack of better terms, public relations communications. So, we build websites for conversion, we build websites for SEO, we build websites, right, for those purposes. And so, you're now going to have a website built for purpose. I want a website that's going to produce leads for me. We're the type of agency that's going to build a website designed for that, right? And so I think that's an important sort of consideration that I think a lot of people don't really understand. And I see this a lot, right? It's like, not all agencies are created equal because all come from different skill set or background or understanding of the world that we're playing in. And I'm not saying one is right or one is wrong. Like you might have a website that's just a nice, beautifully designed website you have no intention of ever generating leads for, that's fine. But most people come to us and they want obviously websites for conversions, websites that are going to generate business for their companies, right? So I think it's an important sort of prerequisite question in terms of like, what are those skills that you have that you're bringing to this website development project?
Well, and I just think like we've talked about this before in terms of when you pick an agency, whether it's a website or marketing or whatever it is, to like align with your values, right? And align with where you're going. And you know, we're an agency with a growth mindset. We're an agency that whatever tactic we're recommending to you, we've tried on ourselves. You know, we believe in an iterative website development process. We're always iterating on our website, much to my, you know, I would not say chagrin, I'll say my excitement to iterate our website. But like, it's important. Like, I think that, you know, if it's about having just a flashy presence online, then there's probably an agency that speaks to that. If it's about, you know, you just want it to be X, then there's an agency for that. And so I do think that, you know, my number one there was that personality fit in that relationship. And it's like, if you have no growth mindset, I'm gonna actually talk about a client here that we launched a website for them, beautiful website. But there was definitely a values misalignment, right? Like we are growth mindset, like to your point, we want to push our clients to generate more leads and to grow. And they didn't want to grow. They were happy with where they were. So as we were talking about, you know, ensuring they could convert and, you know, where are you going to add this great content and how are you going to evolve and this and that, it wasn't resonating with them. And that's not a bad thing. It just meant that we weren't a fit. And you know, when the website was done, it was great. Everyone was happy with the final product, us, them, but it wasn't a fit moving forward, right? Like, I think that's, we talked about this at the beginning of the series. Like, it's a great dating experiment, a website project. Hey, we're a fit or we're not, or hey, let's, you know, chalk it up to different life goals and move the other way. But I think that's an important component, because, you know, as much as we're passionate about one way, I don't want to knock the other ways, but you know, I certainly think that if you're a business that wants to grow, and I haven't met many that don't want to grow and succeed, then yeah, you have to think about that.
Yeah, I guess maybe I'll make one more final comment in terms of the one thing we did not talk about in terms of you know, is things you need in a website developer. And I'll just sort of say is like, we didn't talk about price or cheap or anything like that, because at the end of the day, you get what you pay for. You know, like I think we've tried to outline in this series that like a website development project is a big project. There's lots of project management involved. There's lots of content that needs to be writing. There's lots of quality assurance. There's lots of steps. There's lots of checking in. There's lots of relationship, like you mentioned a lot in this today. There's lots involved. And so like, you know, at the end of the day, you know, if you pick the cheapest person because that's what you want to do is get the lowest price, you're probably going to pay for that website 2 or 3 times over anyways by redevelopment projects and the time wasted and whatever. So like, you know, I'm not saying, oh, the most expensive agencies are the ones that are going to produce the best websites, because not the case at all. But, you know, don't just look at the price, because I think a lot of agencies will underprice themselves, probably because they're not experienced, or just because maybe they're desperate to win work, or whatever the reasons are. And then you're going to end up in a situation where they're not happy and you're not happy and the project's not going to go well, right? And so like, you know, we price in a lot of, we factor in a lot of things in our pricing, and, you know, we think we have very fair prices and very competitive prices, but like, you know, we came to a point where it's like, we're not going to build a website for less than X because we know what's involved. And so, you know, I guess the one thing you shouldn't look for in a developer is the cheapest option, because you're going to pay for it.
I'm going to add one more too. So we're like really messed, like we both have a top 6, I feel like. But my other one is, if you can't understand what they're talking about, that should be a red flag. Like, so
Yeah.
I would say like the top, if we're talking about the top things you need in a web developer, it's like that they speak English, right? Like, and I'm not being facetious there. I mean, like they like speak the language that you speak and they don't
Like plain English, like they're not speaking developer talk to you, and
yeah.
we're not talking about like, yeah, like other cultures. We're talking about like they're not developers that are speaking in code, literally.
Yeah, and I like it really is a pet peeve for me, and I think it really bothers me and fires me up when I talk to a client who's been told that like, oh, it's just too technical and you don't understand. And like one, if it's technical, like your web developer should be able to sit and, you know, you make fun of me all the time, but like I have an analogy for everything. But like they should be able to boil it down for you in a way that you understand.
Yeah.
If you want to understand how a website is launched, your developer should be able to explain it to you. And if you want to understand like how content is organized, you right. If you want to know what a URL is, if you want to know what a SSL certificate is, like they should be able to explain that to you. One, I think that demonstrates, I guess, back to my list, their expertise. But two, it demonstrates like they're going to build the site in a way that's going to be accessible to anyone. If they start telling you about, you know, bouncing between all these things and it's up in space and here we go, and like that, I want to bust this myth that just because you don't build websites, like if you're a marketing manager and you have no tech savvy whatsoever, we like ask our clients this question on a scale of 1 to 10, how tech savvy are you? You know, it's very rare that someone like marks themselves greater than I feel like a 6 or a 7. I'd say the vast majority are kind of 3 or 4. And it's like, you shouldn't be scared of us.
Yeah.
Right? Like we speak in a language that you understand to make you comfortable the entire time. And frankly, you've been telling yourself a lie, or maybe your old developer told you a lie that, oh, this is just over your head and you don't understand technical.
Right.
A website is technical for sure, but like really when you boil it down, my mom could understand it.
The concepts behind some of the technical things are pretty simple and should be easily explained in plain language for sure. And I think that's really important because once you get into this, if you're not understanding the web developer in the development stage, we talk about, being held hostage by website companies and things like that. They're going to hold you hostage and they're going to speak in language you don't understand and confuse you. And then they're going to send you big bills, unfortunately. And again, that's not everybody, and don't want to sort of paint everybody with the same brush, but we've seen that happen time and time again, more times than we care to admit. And we certainly pride ourselves in not being in that agency. And hey, sometimes we don't know the answer. And if it's a technical, then we ask our own sort of technical experts to sort of tell us in plain English, right? There's stuff that happens, whatever, but it all should be easily explained.
It's true. So there you go. Our in typical, I feel like Christina and Peter fashion, we broke the rules a little bit, didn't stick to top 5, but we both have a top 6.
Top 12, really, if you think about it.
Oh my God. Okay, well, they're top 12.
Yeah.
Anyway, so remember, we want to hear what your top things are. So leave us a comment in the social media posts around this podcast. I would love to know what else you guys are looking for in terms of projects that you've done or projects that you're starting on. What are you looking for in a developer? So our social, CIPR Comms is 1M, and follow us on Spotify, Spreaker, and iTunes so you know when the next episode drops. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.